If someone were to show that ESP existed, I would have to revise a lot of my beliefs about the nature of consciousness and mental activity.
English word meditation doesn't define anything, this is a problem. Talking about the fundamental existence of who we are, do we exist? Right now, everything that we know is through five senses. What is wrong with five senses? Nothing wrong. It is just that for different creatures, these senses are different. What is light for you, for a whole lot of creatures, it is darkness. What is darkness for you is light for them. Because the sense organs are designed as it is necessary for our survival process. Based on your survival requirement, accordingly it is designed. So what you see, what a grasshopper sees, what a dragonfly sees are very different because these sense organs are designed for our survival process. And our survival process may be very different from one creature to another. In that context, what we call as brain is just that receptive process or that reception place where it receives all these impulses from senses. To what extent means in a day, even if you walk around the place unconsciously or reasonably unconsciously, still you're receiving millions of gigabytes of memory going into your system, and all this is being stored, processed, whatever. In some minds it may be well done, in some minds it may be randomly done, but it is all being recorded, nobody is missing it. So, this process is a tremendous process for the brain to handle. But the fundamental existence of who we are, is it only because of brain-derived neurological activity or electrical makeup of things? That would be believing in a miracle. That's not a miracle, that is a simple process which is creating fantastic things for us, no question. Fantastic things. It is done to ourselves and to the world in many, many ways. Nobody is questioning the efficacy of that brain. But the important thing is, when we talk about my brain, obviously we are talking about someone who owns the brain also. You don't say, I'm the brain, you're saying, this is my body, this is my brain. This means there is somebody beyond that. Is this a body? No. An entity that we cannot define, an entity that we cannot describe, an entity that we cannot perceive through sense perception, but we know we are here, we know we exist. Well, if we think it's only because we are thinking and processing we exist, no, we exist even without that.
We do have our five senses, each one of which relies on a ingenious little bit of tissue that converts physical energy into neural impulses. And we might have more than five senses depending on how you count. But what we don't have, and this is also relevant to whether consciousness is a miracle, is extrasensory perception, ESP, that is access to states of the world not mediated through some physical transmission of signals. ESP often held to comprise telekinesis, the ability to move objects or cause physical changes through brain power, clairvoyance, the ability to sense the state of the world without any causal chain of transmission of information, precognition, the ability to foresee the future, and telepathy, the ability to sense other people's thoughts. And there is a lively tradition going back millennia of believing that ESP exists, and we know it doesn't exist. I mean, if we know anything, that every attempt to demonstrate one of the varieties of extrasensory perception has been shown to be overinterpretation of coincidences interpreted post hoc. You remember the hits, you bury all of the misses and false alarms. Sometimes actual fraud and flim-flam, as in the self-designated clairvoyants who turn out just to use cheap stage magic. They often fool the physicists because physicists are as foolable by stage magic as anyone else, The ones they don't fool are fellow magicians who can easily expose the tricks. The fact that there is no ESP, one more bit of evidence is we have never, all it would take is a tiny bit of statistical precognition. You don't even need to foresee events exactly, but just beyond the base rate probabilities, and you could get arbitrarily rich in the futures market. You could short or long, Bitcoin or Tesla stocks, and if you could really see if someone somewhere out there could really see the future, they'd be the richest person on earth, because it would not take very much predictive power to outsmart the rest of the market. No such person exists. More evidence that consciousness is not a miracle, that the senses really are the only way in which we can derive information about empirical reality. If someone were to show that ESP existed, I would have to revise a lot of my beliefs about the nature of consciousness and mental activity.
We're in no way referring to such things like ESP or magical ways of knowing things, no. I'm talking about the fundamental existence of who we are. Do we exist? I think in most human beings' experience, unless they're lost in their logic, if you simply sit here, you know you exist. So, this knowing that I exist is not a derivative of neuronal and electrical activity in the brain alone. Even beyond that we exist, because there are states where all this can come down to almost nothing, and still you exist, actually you exist much more. I'm hearing a lot of experiments going on with hallucinogenics and mushrooms and stuff in the universities, not by the students, by the professors. So, they are saying that when they have these spectacular experiences, the brain activity has actually come down, not gone up, as everybody would have believed. So, there are states. See, one important thing is, we should not conclude, especially science should never conclude what we do not know cannot exist. That'll not be a good thing to do.
Yes, but nor should we make up stuff for which we have no reason to believe it exists.
Thank you. That was great conversation, but I think there are millions of people around the world, even who experience the states of the deeper states of meditation. It's not just one or two, from different schools they've experienced, which are not explainable by current ways of examining them, because we don't have the tools for it. So we're not able to explain the deeper states of meditation and the states they live in. So that is not made up, right? So how do we experience? That is an unknown thing. So that's all we're saying, just be open and examine that in a way that, can we understand that or not?
Well, we may not understand it in the sense that it involves such unfathomably intricate patterns of brain activity, one brain pattern leading to another brain pattern, in ways that we may not understand. I don't know if we don't understand it in the sense that it must involve some new form of energy or some kind of contradiction of the idea that it's all brain activity. But brain activity can be really, really complex, and there's an awful lot we don't understand, including the effects of meditation. Now, what I am very skeptical of is that any state of meditation, for example, can result in clairvoyance or telekinesis or telepathy or precognition. And I assume you're not. I'm sure you're not. I assume you're not stating that meditation can accomplish that.
No, not at all. So, for example, Matthew Ricard's brain. I think Stephen Lawrence is here. He examined his brain, and they've looked at their brain activity, functional MRI, etc., and they showed a relaxed, alert state where everything is fired up. And this is like a trait for him. It's not like a state examination. And they could see that relaxed alertness leads to fired up brain completely, but still relaxed. So that is not the usual pattern that happens in a normal person who's not meditating, right? So, for example.
Yes.
So I'm not proposing that they're clairvoyant, that is very different. I'm just saying that these are rare, and these kind of brains, it seems like they're just completely fired up but still very, very relaxed. So I think that's a great state to be in.
No, that's interesting. I admire Matt Sheffield. I had an event with him in Paris in which we talked about the historical processes that lead to peace. And indeed, there may be aspects of brain function that we don't understand that could be illuminated by meditation, understood as one complex pattern of brain activity leading to another complex pattern of brain activity, all within the realm of the natural.
See, the things that we're talking about, clairvoyance, telepathy, these are childish tricks. That's not what we're referring to. The English word meditation doesn't define anything. This is a problem. Because when it comes to subjectivity, English language is very poor. When it comes to objective world, English language is phenomenally effective. Having said that, if someone closes their eyes and sits, generally people say, oh, he or she is meditating. You can close your eyes and do japa, tapa, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, shunya, samyama. Well, these are all distinct states which are taught and transmitted in a systematic way, not just some, some mumbo-jumbo way that I try to redefine the word miracle, but you're sticking to the religious form of miracle. I'm not going there, let's leave that word. Let's say magical experiences, because magic can still be explained, but it's still magical in our experience. Leaving that aside, we can clearly transmit these aspects distinctly from one to the other. If they come to a dharana initiation, we will do only dharana. If they come to dhyana, we'll do only dhyana. If they come to samyama, we do only samyama. Distinctly different states that a human being can experience. Is all this about electrical activity? Someday, I think, the scientists must invest enough time to study these things, not with the attitude of proving or disproving it, but just by looking at it. Just simply looking at it without making conclusions, because conclusions are coming from what present things that we know, what data that we have. The very fundamental of science is that whatever we know right now is not everything. That is the fundamental of science we are seeking. Because seeking comes from the most fundamental realization that we do not know, that's why we are seeking. Seeking is genuine only if we see, I do not know. If I'm seeking this or that, I already know it is there, I'm looking for confirmation, that's not seeking, we're just making it up. So, essentially, it is very important if these two disciplines have to meet. It's because these two disciplines meeting is very important for human well-being. Just we thinking that improving the economies of the world, which is wonderful, changing the social structures of the world, which is fantastic, providing medical care, this, that, everything is fantastic, but still, human beings will still not attain to any sense of fulfillment or fullness of experience of life unless they turn inward. This turning inward is not about watching the electrical processes in my brain. It is about looking at something far more fundamental within myself. If we conclude that there is nothing more fundamental apart from electricity, well, then a light bulb lights up, that's enlightenment. We should not look at it that way. Now, because we must understand this whole thing is coming from, I'm sorry if I'm making some generalization, it is a generalization, but I'm saying this contextually. See, this whole, the European thing about enlightenment or a period of enlightenment has come because they were under the tyranny of dogmatic belief systems. When they broke away, they felt liberated. But such a thing never existed in the East. We never faced such things. There was no anything dogmatic ruling us. Thinking and, thinking to whatever extent we can was always free for us. So we never thought thinking free is enlightenment. For us, enlightenment is a much more profound process. So, breaking away from dogma and thinking freely, it's a basic human right, I don't call that enlightenment. But because of that background, your resistance for the word miracle is essentially coming from the religious, stuff that has happened, people claiming all kinds of miracles happening from here, there, God is talking to me and all this stuff. We are not talking about that, we are not talking about clairvoyance, we are not talking about telepathy, please use the telephone. Don't compete with the telephone company, all right? So, but is there something more profound to human existence than physiological and psychological drama? In my experience, 100% there is.